Well, I'm in a park again, and you know what that means. In yesterday's video, I called the leadership of the government of Ontario a bunch of fools, and I wanted to apologize for not going into enough detail as to how and why they're a bunch of fools. See, we've been in this pandemic now for more than a year, and we've learned how and why the pandemic spreads, and there's been a lot of demonstrable examples of how to effectively control it. New Zealand, China, Korea, all sorts of different places that are basically successful in some degree or another. There's people that are happily without masks wandering around in public with no risk of infection, basically no risk of infection, and the evidence is there in terms of how to get there. So why, I asked, rhetorically, would a government see these examples, counterexamples, and do not that? Why would they do strategies that are known not to work? Why would they not do the strategies that are known to work? Why would they ignore plain and obvious evidence and the urging of experts, the urging of all sorts of folks that are reasonable people that have dedicated their lives to studying this stuff? I read an interesting article yesterday in Maclean's magazine that the strategies that the government of Ontario and other governments like it have been using effectively shift the blame from institutions onto individuals. And this got me thinking about the underlying psychology and motivations and rationality of folks that govern like this. The fundamentals of this problem come down to a matter of worldview. The worldview of individualism that is common among the more conservative end of capitalist politics, it eschews the importance of society and of institutional responses and foists all that responsibility onto individual choices. Same thing with crime, same thing with poverty and homelessness and drug addiction and things like that. They fail to acknowledge the role of society in generating these problems and instead put it down to personal choice to be addicted to drugs, personal choice to be homeless or impoverished or whatever. They fail to see that it's part of a complex system, and individuals acting in a complex system are not acting on their own. So in this case, whereas there are institutional responses such as paid sick leave and instituting full lockdowns without exception to do a circuit breaker and stop the outbreak before it can take hold, they have moved back to this idea that the problem is people not following the rules. And so, being that their only tool in the toolkit is a hammer, they just add more rules, add more restrictions, add more authoritarian measures to scare people into making the right choices, when really the main problem is not people's choices. I mean, yes, to a certain degree, people's individual action does have an impact. If lots of folks are not wearing masks or gathering in large groups or those sorts of things, then obviously that's going to cause a bit of a problem. But that's not the primary problem now, is it? As was pointed out in this Maclean's article, most of the major outbreaks, most of the super spreader events actually took place at workplaces, places where people are required to be, if not by law, then by economic incentive. Because if there's no paid sick leave, then you have to go to work, even if you're sick, basically. Because if you don't, you can't pay the rent, or for that matter, your boss will discipline you or possibly fire you for not showing up to work when obviously you have to go to work. Why is it that they're not able to see reason in this? Well, that comes down to this worldview problem. I've spoken before on this channel about how worldview precedes reason. It's not that this is a set of facts that they're not seeing, because the facts are right there. It's that they're prevented from seeing these facts by the fact that they don't comport to their version of reality. Worldview isn't just a set of facts about reality, it's the basis on which reality is formed, on which facts are then constructed. So if your worldview is so individualistic that you don't see that society exists, that these systemic factors are factors, then it's impossible for the facts, impossible for the evidence that relies on the existence of society to even mean anything. So it doesn't really matter how much evidence they see, it doesn't matter how many experts are contradicting their plans, their schemes, their bold plans to solve the problem. They're going to believe what they're going to believe, because the facts literally do not matter. How do we get out of this? Well, there's no easy way out of this, because worldview is damn near impossible to change. These folks are so far down that rabbit hole that it would basically take a life-altering shift in mindset in order to get any semblance of reason. So, in other words, the only available option is a change in government. And yes, Ontario, there is an election coming next year, so please do remember this when the ballot box opens up to you. And yes, do please vote for this, because although the other options that are available, the Liberals and the NDP, are varying levels of this individualistic motif, the Conservative Party, the Progressive Conservative Party, is very much the extreme of this neoliberal model. Anyway, I do videos daily, and so if you enjoy this content, do algorithmic stuff if you would. Thank you very much. And so thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.